What industry is a lot shadier than it seems? Avocado farms. Most of the farms in Central America are taken over by the cartel because of how much money is in selling avocados. The textbook industry. Pearson is the fucking mafia. Trucking. The margins are razor thin and so everyone is trying to nickel and dime each other constantly. The drivers lie to their dispatchers. The dispatchers lie to the brokers. The brokers lie to the clients. All of this for like $50 to $100 sometimes. Health insurance. In the commercials it is all about caring for your health and stuff. But if you ever get a serious illness, they will do anything to avoid paying for your treatment. Source: my mother got breast cancer and her health insurance made a business decision to let her die rather than pay the $40,000 for her treatment. They made that decision, then hired lawyers to make it happen. My mom got to fight them in court while going through chemo. She made it by mortgaging the house. She told me the insurance company caused her more stress than the prospect of dying. More people died last year over vanilla in Madagascar than cocaine in South America. They've even coined the term, vanilla murder. Farmers hire armed mercenaries to guard their crops from thieves near harvest time. And if one is caught, well, let's just say it's in response to all the farmers that were killed by thieves for the same reason. This article is a fairly light read on the subject without anything too graphic. But there's a great deal of information about it floating around, along with some pretty disturbing accounts. CBD. Lot of predatory companies making subpar products with questionable raw materials and then marking it way the fuck up and selling it as a miracle cure to vulnerable and ill-educated consumers. Usually have a high-power legal team on deck, but pay their workers shit and no benefits. Edit. Because so many people are asking. While I used to be in sales in the industry and have my own opinions about who's good out there, it's a woefully short list. You'll probably have your best luck checking out the top recommendations at our CBD. They have a whole pinned post about best companies that they've, hopefully, vetted well. All industries are shadier than they seem. I used to work for a flute manufacturer and it was shady as hell. Not an industry. But higher academia is badly broken. Some of the smartest people are some of the most badly exploited. Old tenured professors limit the number of faculty many departments can have, forcing people to work as postdocs forever, effectively doing all the work the professor should be doing in the first place. Meager pay and long hours, plus constant pressure makes postdocs some of the most depressed people. The grad students are no better either. A lot of the times grad students don't complain about ill treatment, harassment and outright bullying as they don't want to jeopardize their prospects of graduating. If you're a foreigner, this situation becomes even worse, whether you're a grad student or a postdoctoral researcher. The maritime industry. Most of the big companies do things by the book and treat crews well because they're afraid of lawsuits and unions. But many smaller, mom-and-pop, companies break laws and violate safety regulations with reckless abandon because they're not as visible and can stay under the radar, so to speak. It's very common for a small company to ask a captain, crew to do something illegal and dangerous in order to increase profit. And for the captain, crew to comply out of fear of losing their jobs. And that's just the U.S. maritime industry. Sailors from poorer nations who work on ships are often fed little more than rice and cheap ramen for months at a time and paid pennies for their back-breaking work. I love running tugs for a living. But the industry as a whole is rife with shady business. A lot of hobby fish importing is pretty shady. You have farms of certain types of fish like bettas in some areas of the world that are run with the fish in horrible conditions. Which is why a lot of the ones you get in a major chain store are sick before you even bring them home. The stores will blame the fish being stressed. But I've ordered and received hundreds of fish from small breeders, sellers and outside of Cory catfish that really enjoy committing suiciding by poisoning their own water. The fish arrive healthy and fine. Outside of boutique fish farming, the way some wild fish are caught is just horrible. The trappers will lightly poison the water supply to knock out the fish, then scoop them out of the water without a care for that area's ecosystem. This has led to depletion of some natural species to the point they are now endangered. Lastly, boutique fish sellers, major chains do not give half a rat's ass what happens to the fish in the end. This means that people who buy fish like plecos, bettas, goldfish, etc., end up getting sick of them and dumping them in local waterways to supposedly get rid of the problem. So in some areas, these fish have completely destroyed the local water ecology because, like other invasive land species, they were never meant to be there. One of the worst offenders is the lionfish in Florida. It's venomous and has no natural predators, so its population has exploded out of control. The same is true of plecos and goldfish. Basically, releasing fish into the wild is a terrible idea. Releasing any animal into the wild can have disastrous consequences. But fish are being released into a very limited ecosystem and outside of a few diseases. If they can adapt to the water and have no predators, they will survive and breed incredibly quickly. I love my fish. I love the hobby. And there's a lot of value to it, as global warming may make things like reef tanks a valuable source of coral in the future. But there's also a lot of bad to it. Doesn't the beauty industry have a problem with child labor? I remember watching a thing where a journalist goes to India to see the mines where children mine some sort of mineral to make bronzer. Edit. The mineral is mica, and someone pointed out the video where I remembered this from. Link. Dietary supplements. It's gotten better. But there's still a lot of half-truths and whole lies. Not all that long ago it was seriously like the Wild Wild West. As a chef, owner, I would say delivery services like Grubhub. They take 30% of the sale, leaving the restaurant with basically $0 in profit. And their customer support is a joke. It's like they hate us. Fuck them. Never again. Pet industry. Basement puppy mills and dogs that are so inbred they can hardly breathe. There are plenty of ethical breeders out there, and some unlicensed breeders are ethical even if in a legal gray zone, but the conditions of some of the so-called puppy mills can be really bad. Sometimes when breeds are mixed and the pup gets the recessive genes the breeders weren't looking for, they straight up euthanize it because they know it won't sell. Not to mention how many purebreds are actually not pure at all and sold as is. Shady. Jewelry, gems, diamonds is pretty dark. This will probably get buried. But glitter. A manager of one of the biggest glitter manufacturers, Glitterx, said in a 2018 interview that most of the glitter they make goes to one buyer for a single industrial use. When asked who the buyer was and why they need so much glitter, she said, "Oh, I definitely can't disclose that." When asked why, she said, "Because they don't want anybody to know it's glitter." Ever since this interview, people have been trying to guess what company or industry secretly uses most of the world's glitter and why they want to keep that use under wraps. A link to the interview. Sunglass industry. Recruitment industry. Some examples. Fake jobs to lure candidates for registration KPIs. Trainee negotiation tactics of telling a candidate there is a better candidate who wants less, so we recommend less for you to get the job. Especially for contractors. Coveting off, pitching and telling a candidate they have been sent to a line manager but in reality they haven't been submitted because two others from same recruiter have already been in interviews. If they fail, you may get a chance. Lot of coded ways to put on a database info on your age. Non-professional related appearance. And ethnicity. Ageism. Sexism. Racism is rampant in hiring. A lot more dodgy stuff behind the scenes. Source. Was involved with the industry on a global level for over 15 years before I changed careers. Eyeglasses. You have no idea the snow job they put most people through when it comes to buying them. It's far, far worse than trying to buy a new car from a dealership. Wholesale frames are about $5 to $20. Wholesale lens blanks are another $10. Any kind of dip coating, UV, tinting, etc., is negligible cost and effort to apply, literally pennies. To top it off, they don't even do a whole lot in-house, but send it to labs, which are basically sweatshops that can take up to 2 to 3 weeks when labor time is literally under 5 minutes. Instead of training real opticians and technicians, they're just glorified sales staff now. Most of the time they don't even bother with proper measurement for PD. Frame width, or arm fitting, was an optician in the early 90s. I'm horrified at what the business has become. Mattress industry. Specifically, mattress firm. The nonprofit world. Unfortunately, most people at the top are in it to make a name for themselves and don't usually care about the mission of the organization. Hear me out. K-pop. The music and the art industry. Apparently tiger zoos and #X200B. Edit. Thank you for the gold. You will probably never recover financially from this. Defense contract manufacturing. When I worked in that field, it was like a time capsule to 70s stereotypes. Beer for lunch. Whiskey in the desk drawer. Everyone fucking everyone. And the best seats at the biggest games for decision makers. What industry isn't? I have no proof of this, but the high-end art industry. I 100% believe most of it is just to launder money. Porn industry. Fast food is whack. My dad knows a story from someone who works for a nationwide grocery chain. They have to deal with an Italian mafia to import balsamic vinegar. Logistics industry. With major corporations such as Walmart being one of the biggest contributors to selling stolen goods. Sometimes trucks go missing, or sometimes trucks leave earlier than the established time of departure and never arrive to their destinations. Let's say you have a Walmart appointment for 9 a.m. for a 2,000 carton order. It would take at least 2 hours to load all that. But once the loading is done, the truck driver needs to wait until confirmation is given in written form. Well, Walmart truck drivers vanish halfway through the loading and never return. Now, Walmart has about 1,000 boxes not accounted for. Plus no confirmation whatsoever that these 1,000 boxes were part of that 2,000 carton order. So they treat them like a bonus. So far, only UPS, FedEx and Fred Meyer are the only companies that keep a close count and send back anything that wasn't in their original order. Heck, Fred Meyer sends the entire order back just for a single mislabeled box. Lol. These three guys are the good guys. From what little I've seen. But Walmart, Jesus. Sometimes, boxes get labeled as being something entirely different in order to bypass special qualifications or restrictions. For example, about the time when Corona Chan started going crazy, we had to label toys and board games as groceries for a huge Walmart order that took about a week and a half to properly label and ship. It was a nightmare, and pretty much every employee aside from the administrative staff was disgusted and pissed. Sex toys. It's horribly unregulated, and there are tons of manufacturers that use unsafe materials to make their toys. Sex toys has lots of great info for people looking to get any. Medical research. The only way people can keep their jobs at a lot of the institutions with better facilities is to create a steady stream of high-impact publications. Now, research doesn't work that way. You get the supported results whenever it happens. But that's not how hiring, promotion, or tenure committees see it. This means that, in order to ensure you get enough of these desirable publications in the right period, you have to do all sorts of corner cutting. You publish before the results are well supported. You publish results that are unrepeatable. You write papers in the smallest possible units of the work, so people need to wait years to see what the full results are. In the process, junior scientists' careers can be made or absolutely destroyed in this system. A lucky student who gets the right project can find themselves as first author on a very high-impact paper and be set for years. But an experienced and previously successful postdoc can be ruined when they can't produce the results the senior scientists want. Or just not in the right time frame. The senior scientists rarely have the time to do, or carefully look over, the actual research because they are so busy actually writing the papers and the grants needed to fund the work in the first place. If reviewers catch these issues with the papers, the authors just shop the paper to other journals until it passes, or they put up such a pitched battle with the editors they just let it pass. Sometimes the EDS feel they can't handle the pressure. Sometimes are just convinced by the bombast. All of us have seen published papers that we rejected for other journals earlier because the work is poorly done or is just incorrect. To be clear, the authors really believe in their papers even when they are aware of their shortcomings. And they usually have plenty of evidence that papers just as problematic or worse have been published. So why not theirs? On top of everything, the universities and research institutions work over these findings with their press department, and by the time it makes it to journalists, the story is so distorted that it's barely related to the actual work. Bloggers digest this even further, and the misperceptions have spread all over a much wider community. Even other scientists in different areas of the same field will absorb this news as truth. These are the scientists on those committees mentioned above, demanding a particular kind of result. As a result of all this, Medical research is much more inefficient and expensive than it needs to be. However, scientists need to jobs, grant money, and good facilities to do their work at all. And the system makes it clear what they need to do to ensure those necessities. So they oblige. Edit. I want to be clear that I am only speaking to a very specific area of scientific research here. And I do not intend to tar the whole field with the same brush. Rating services like Yelp refuse to advertise and your good reviews magically get rearranged. Hey, look, if you want to do that and be transparent. I get it. But most every business owner knows how scummy this is, and most clients just have no idea. I have a business that isn't something that would usually be looked for on Yelp. They called and I just froze. Luckily I do long-term rentals and was sold out. Explained I wouldn't have an opening for months. They seemed to leave me alone. Yet they have my business on the front page of Google search, under the wrong category. Meat industry. The factories are straight up disgusting. Not hygienic, and they break so many regulations it's ridiculous. But OFC, when an inspection comes, everything is in order. Eyewear. Luxottica owns a large majority of eyewear and holds a virtual monopoly on the market. They control all prices and will crush competition. The only reason eyeglasses and sunglasses are so expensive is because of price gouging. Cruise ships. I was told I was having a minimum of 1 day off every week and work normal hours, 8 to 10 h per day, with a good pay and good prepaid tips. I ended up working 30 days in a row. UL over 400 hours. For $1,600 with tips included. This company I was working for was called Scenic Cruises, ship was called MS Scenic Crystal, which was an Australian company working over a Swiss company going under a Maltese flag. Sailing in Central Europe. That's how I understood it anyways. They deliberately did this so they could break international laws. I counted at least 5 that they broke. Biggest scam company I ever worked for. I resigned after my first month. The police boarded the ship every once in a while because they knew this, but they couldn't do shit because they had no jurisdiction over the ship. I was forced to work with a 39 Celsius fever. I really want to fuck this company up, but I literally have no idea how. And hiring an international lawyer or whatever is too expensive. Edit. If anyone knows how, please contact me. Politics. Like however shady you think it is. I promise you it's shadier. Nestle. They use child labor. Steal the fresh water reserves from small villages in South Africa, promising to give them better access to it, then privatize it and attempt to sell it back to them as bottled water at a price they can't afford. Not to mention, I believe they used some water sources rural villages needed for drinking water and used it to pump their wastewater into. Then hide behind their lawyers to let them get away with it. The gourmet mushroom industry. The short of it is that I pulled over to check on what I thought was a forest fire in the middle of nowhere. British Columbia. Turned out it was a wandering rove of, for lack of a better title, Canadian mushroom gypsies looking for matasuki, pine, mushrooms and chanterelles. Next thing you know, my car keys vanished and I was put to work for 2 days, with payment being a sandwich and a few beers. We wandered the forest, digging up pine buttons, and learned way more about mushrooms than I ever imagined. And we were warned heavily to stay close to our own captors, kidnappers. Whatever is the rival group was not above violent tactics if you entered their territory. This was affirmed when I stumbled upon an angry man from the other side pointing a shotgun at me. Whether or not there's truth to it, I don't know, but supposedly the mushroom world was once incredibly lucrative until the Chinese mob infiltrated it and gouged the prices. After 2 days my keys mysteriously reappeared with my car unharmed and nothing missing. No one would answer where it went. But they all knew. Hands down the nicest kidnappers ever. But it was a wild experience. Edit. Oh my Lanta, this blew up. I found the journal entry with the full story. A few years back I started writing short stories on my bizarre life experiences, and thankfully, this was one of them. I'll find a way to share it as soon as I have better access than my phone. Edit 2. Oof. Where do I share it? It's too long for a comment. Should I just share it as a document and give y'all the link? Sorry. I'm a Reddit idiot. Edit 3. Okay. I shared it in 3 comments below. Hope you enjoy it. The umbrella industry. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like. If you would like to see more content like this in the future, Subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified about future videos. Now check out one of these interesting videos.